Hi and welcome back to this next video where today we're going to be talking all about your workspace at the WorldSkills competition. We're going to cover some really important things like health and safety, general tidiness in your area and just some general tips on how to make the most out of your station. I just want to speak to you a little bit about the actual layout of your workbench, and this is so important because you will be having so much to think about, and the last thing you need really is to think, oh no, where have my scissors gone, or where is my knife, and to start wasting time searching for it. So a really good tip to get into is to start training your muscle memory, and this is when you get used to doing habits. So now what I do is whenever I reach for my scissors, I know that they're always on the right hand side of my desk, and I also do this at work. So if you're in college or if you're in work, it's a really good thing to start and get into the habit of. So whenever you're finished with your tools, always put them to one side of your desk. It can either be the right hand side or the left, whichever works best for you. But just a really good habit to get into, especially for competitions, because again, you don't want to be wasting your time searching around for things. And the same to my drill. I use the drill quite a lot in competitions, so it's something that I tend to have on the desk quite a lot. Again, it always goes to the left side of my desk and tools to the right. But have a play and think about what works best for you. I just want to talk a little bit about the cleanliness of your tools, and because it is so important, because these are the tools that will be cutting into the stem structure, and therefore if you have dirty tools or if you have any kind of bacteria on your tools, it will then get into the stem structure of the flower and therefore will not last as long. So that's a really important factor to consider, because the WorldSkills competition days, they're not just 4 hours of competition on one day. You will be competing for 2 or 3 days. So the longevity of your flowers is really important. So with your drill, if it's the end of the day or if you're going on your lunch break, a really good tip is to make sure that you put your battery on charge. This has actually happened to me before in the middle of a competition. My drill battery has just died on me. So again, if you get into the habit of just putting it on charge before you go home, or if you're going off on your lunch break quickly, it will save you time and stress. Just coming back to health and safety again, especially with things like the glue guns, we absolutely need to make sure that they are not near any kind of water source or any buckets, anything like that. So I'm definitely going to keep that on the other side of my bench. It's absolutely worth noting as well to have a think about where you are going to put your plan of action. As I said earlier, you will probably get some time allocated, whether it be in preparation time or in the start of a task. You'll be able to have a think and do a quick plan of action as to your timings. I've just done a quick one here, just for example with a bridle. So you've got 30-minute framework, 1.5 hour wiring, but that's what I would do. I do a quick note here and then I stick to that, and I keep it on my desk as a reminder during the task. I'd also keep my colour wheel out, and if you are allowed and if there's room, I might even stick it up on the wall next to me using a bit of sellotape or something. But it just really helps encourage you to really hit those marks within the marking scheme. So that's really important to think about as well. And also just a quick reminder that unfortunately we're not allowed to take any plans of action or any kind of writing or sketches into the competition with us. Leave them at your hotel room by all means, but do not take anything into the competition other than a pen and paper as per the toolbox list. So I think this is a really important aspect to talk about as well. So under your workbench, it will probably be a slightly different layout to this one. This one is just a generic one that I have here in the shop, but you will probably be able to put your toolbox under there, and it's just a really good tip to keep things organised and clean and tidy. So in general, I always work with my toolbox on the left, and I know for a fact my bin will always be on my right. So again, coming back to that muscle memory, if you're cutting stems or if you're conditioning, you don't have to think about where's the bin. If you know it's always to the right hand side of you, again, you're not wasting so much time, and that puts you way ahead of other competitors if you're used to that. It's just all these little factors to think about on getting yourself into good practice. And because the WorldSkills competition comes back to commercial work, and it's just really about being tidy and having good workmanship skills. So again, to the left of my toolbox I will have my flowers if there's room. I tend to always put them there just because I know that it works best for me, and you haven't got to waste again so much time faffing about. Everything's kind of got a place and it's nice and organised. The booth will probably be slightly different again to this layout, but it's good to have some kind of plan of action just so you know where you're going. The flowers themselves I would always put towards the left of my bench, so as you can see here, you will be given quite a few buckets, which is fabulous because then you can arrange your flowers to however you'd like to arrange them. Whether you put all of the tropicals in one bucket or whether you arrange them by colour. I always arrange mine by colour because then I find that it helps me do the colour combinations a lot better, and it just makes me feel more organised. So as you can see here, I've got a bucket of whites and greens. I've also got my pinks and blush tones, and I've also got one down here of blues and lilacs. Now you will be getting a lot more flower than this, and it will be very different to what I've got in my shop today. This is all very country garden, but you will probably get things like roses, gerberas, just general kind of commercial flowers that you would usually find in a shop in the competition. So that's quite an important factor to remember. And also just a little bit about the actual the cleanliness as well. It's really important to make sure that you keep these buckets as clean as possible. And if you find that some of your stems are starting to go a little bit soggy, or just a little bit not quite as clean as they should be, then absolutely change your water. You will usually get some time at the end of your competition day to have a quick tidy up, and it's definitely worth just having a look through and making sure if you need to change the water, or if you need to do a little bit of conditioning, or if any stems need recutting. Once you get into the actual booth and once the competition days have started, you will probably find that you will have some time at some point to prepare your materials, and this includes checking the materials for any damage. You'll also get given a list of how many stems you'll have of each flower, so it's really important to check all of that as well. And it's at this point that you can condition the flowers, and as we all know from college or from shop experience, conditioning flowers is essential to making sure that they last the required amount of time. So I would, on the preparation day or in the allocated time, I would just make sure that all of my materials are prepared, and I would take a look at really closely and just remove any damaged leaves or anything that's going to cost you some marks down the line in your future designs. So I'll just remove all these leaves as well. And as you can see, my hand is just going straight into the bin, which is on the right of me. So again, just making sure that everything is in the perfect condition. And if you're not quite happy with something that you've been given, then always speak to somebody. So I thought I would set up the desk as if I was about to do a hand-tied bouquet in the actual competition. So just to give you a rough idea of my thought process while I'm preparing for the task. So I've already conditioned all of my materials, which has been done during the conditioning stage in the early days of the competition. And during that stage I also removed any leaf or anything that would kind of drain or detract from the actual flower in the design. So I've laid out all of my materials on the bench. I've got viburnum, delphinium, alstroemeria, antirrhinum, etc. You will definitely get different flowers to these, but I thought I would show you just to explain. So I've got all my flowers laid out separately, so when I actually begin the task it will just be a case of putting it together. I've already got my vase here, and again this is just something to think about. You can think about asking questions before the task starts, such as, can I fill up my vase before the time starts? So all of these different questions are all going to be things to help save you some time. You may be allowed to do it, you may not, but it's absolutely worth just asking the question just in case. So everything's ready to go for the actual materials. I've also got my string here, I've got my scissors in the right place and my drill if I'm making a framework. So the next stage for me would to just crack on with this design and to create a really beautiful piece of work. This is my tool belt which I take with me to my competitions. I've had it for quite a few years now actually. It went to the NEC with me and then on to Budapest and Russia, so it's quite sentimental. I do think of it as a little bit of a like a good luck charm in a funny sort of way, but really again just going back to the kind of muscle memory and limiting wasting time. I know that my scissors or my spare pair of scissors are always going to be in here, and my knife as well, and especially it's really good if you find yourself that you have to make something quite big or something where you're not really going to be working on the actual desk, such as like a pedestal or something like that, because it means that you don't have to keep going to your desk for the pair of scissors or for the knife or for whatever it is that you're using. You don't have to get one quite as like this one. You can just have a quick look on the internet for a tool belt or a builder's belt, or even a gardening belt, but they've got loads of different price ranges on there, but see how you get on with it. I love mine. Not only do I use it for competition, but I also use it commercially as well if I'm out doing weddings and events. It's just quite a good thing, and it gets you kind of in the competition zone, so once I put this on I know that I'm about to do a competition or something. You are actually able to move your booth around if you like, so I quite like having my desk against the wall. It means I don't get distracted by other people, because at WorldSkills, especially at the NEC, there will be loads of school children walking around. So if you find that you're quite easily distracted, maybe have the booth up against the wall so you're not going to be looking around, but the good thing is that you are able to move it as to where you feel comfortable. So that's everything from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you found it helpful, and just enjoy the experience and have the best time ever.